Welcome, everyone. I am Chala Dinkoy, CEO and founder of the Repositioning Expert. We are here for another wonderful member of our speaking, staff, I'm going to say, or speaking guests at the amazing 2024 EXCELerate conference. This is a conference that's taking place at the Pan Pacific Hotel in Vancouver on April the 24th to the 26th. And it is literally a mega trends event where you're going to see speakers that are, thought leaders, inventors, investors, every kind of person that needs to show you whether you can, the future is going to hurt your business or grow your business. And we're really curious about how Cathy Bennett, who I'm going to introduce to you now as the co-founder and general partner of Sandpiper Ventures. First of all, welcome, Cathy.
Happy to be here, thanks.
Yeah, so tell us, first of all, what you're going to be talking about.
Well, at Sandpiper Ventures, we are a Canadian venture capital firm focused on investing in women, growing high growth companies. And I'm excited to be out on the West Coast because we're anchored in Atlantic, Canada. So we're looking forward to getting to see what is the second best coast, maybe, of our great country.
That's wonderful. So you're going to be talking about women's access to capital.
Yes, and for sure, members of the audience and folks that are going to be joining us will appreciate how challenging it is. Only 2% of venture capital money actually ends up in ventures that are founded by women. And for us, we're really wanting to put our finger on the scale to change that and ensure that women who are building growth companies have the opportunity to access venture capital in a way that maybe they haven't had the opportunity in the past. It's an important catalyst to growing and scaling companies. And my experience working in other organizations and being part of ecosystems that are working on solutions, not just from Sandpiper's perspective, I think might be of interest to folks who join us and participate that day.
Absolutely. So tell me about how your company helps this.
So we have one fund that we are almost fully deployed and raising and closing a second fund now to support women who are growing in the areas of technology, future of work, companies that are taking on big, complex problems in the world and in the area of climate and climate change. And also in the area of workforce and education of the future and healthcare. So these are predominantly companies that we see in our pipeline. We have companies from coast to coast to coast across the country. And, these founders are trying to create something that is going to scale exponentially as a venture backable entity. We're looking for high growth companies. And really excited to meet folks when I get there to visit.
And so tell me how you got into this.
So a group of us had been longtime mentors in the ecosystem here on the East Coast, and we noticed that the women and the men were getting asked interesting questions. Men were getting asked questions about growth, and women were being asked questions about risk. And when you're an investor and there's biases brought to the table by the investment decision makers, in addition to biases around founder impact, those answers are very different when you're asked growth questions and risk questions. So for us, we felt there was a big gap and that we could put maybe our self-disclosed bias in the decision-making process to balance the scales for founders so they'd have a chance to access capital that is very difficult for women to access. And so there's 3 general partners that ultimately formed the company. And we've been around since 2020 and look forward to making an impact on the portfolio. We have 12 investments to date. And we also have, significant activities that we participate in the ecosystem, helping to educate investors, particularly women investors who want to invest in funds like ours to make an impact, not only on the problems that women founders are trying to solve, but also in support of the women founders who are creating these solutions.
that's, as a woman business owner, first of all, thank you. I mean, we couldn't even get a mortgage on our own until apparently a couple of years ago, almost. So were you in the like the banking, the financial side of it, and the person who was giving these loans or not giving them?
Well, my background is I've been a founder of my own group of companies, and I
Okay.
was CEO of Bennett Group of Companies for almost 25 years. We grew a large scale company here on the East Coast. Then I did a stint in public service and was the finance minister and the minister responsible for status of women. I think the rumor is I was the first provincial minister to have both portfolios simultaneously. And after that, I went on to become a member of the Sandpiper ownership team. And yeah, so it's been really exciting to see, folks that we support in particular be supported by our institutional investors and the other institutions that we've brought together to provide funds and also attract a large number of women investors. We have almost 70% of our investors are women. And
Well,
so we're working both ends of the capital flow. We're going to see a massive shift in wealth to women, and they're looking for opportunities to support solutions that they care about, whether it's women's health, whether it's climate, future of care in the health context and health and wellness context. So lots of interesting problems being solved by women and lots of interesting places that women investors want to put their money.
so have you ever been in the position to ask for money and be denied because you were a woman?
Well, interesting for me, my first business transaction was actually an exit. Doesn't make sense, I know. But my father had passed away, and we ultimately, I did the closing of the transaction. So that left me with a tiny nest egg from our family small business pharmacy. And I was able to turn that into a joint venture partnership with McDonald's Canada. I became a 25% owner. But one of the privileges of being a minority partner with a very large behemoth like McDonald's is that the banks treated me a little differently than they were treating my peers who were in different organizations. And over years, I learned to understand that that was a really big position of privilege I had in my early career. So I worked hard and did my own joint ventures with young women and different organizations around Atlantic Canada, where I became either a minority partner or a majority partner to support their financial growth. And that's how I grew some of my companies, is recognizing that capital was constrained for women, and I could play a role in that both personally and now at this stage of my life, at this act, as they say, I can do it professionally.
I love it. My God. What was it like being in public service and being sort of like the person who is making the decisions to help?
Well, it was certainly humbling. I mean, when we understand, one of the biggest messages I took away was so many folks assume that women create businesses for particular reasons. I think there's so many reasons why women create business, including, sadly, some to escape the control of finances that might come in an unhealthy relationship. You can also have women who are creating businesses, particularly because they are focused on solving a care problem. And we also know, I mean, from the data is clear that women get to revenue faster and they do it more cost effectively with less expenses. So
Wow.
from a practical perspective, this is an investment that makes sense for investors and provides a good return. And it's one of the reasons why I'm happy to, use my voice where I can with the platform of Sandpiper to be able to advocate for the leveling of the playing field when it comes to access to capital.
That's amazing. What advice do you have to give to our listeners and our viewers who are trying to navigate this?
I think the advice I'd give in today's market is do your planning and strategy on fundraising before you actually launch your fundraising. I think we see a lot of folks trying to run their idea and finance as they go. And I think in this particular market, that's going to be harder than any time we've seen in recent history. It's a tough market out there with inflationary pressures and market conditions and geopolitical conditions. Capital isn't flowing in the direction that it normally would flow in. And even in the best of times, it was tough for us as women to get access to capital. So now, rather than exhaust yourself trying to hustle and find the capital, work really thoughtfully on a strategic plan targeting investors that you know and can prove have supported folks doing the things you're doing. And I think you'll have a better chance of success and won't necessarily end up in a state of exhaustion that so many founders, particularly women, are finding themselves in now in this current market for the last 12 to 18 months.
Wow. And, I hope this is not a political question, but do you think that this issue is different in the US?
I think from venture capital perspective, venture capital is a much more seasoned capital stream in the US. We've seen the growth of the venture capital industry in Canada more in the last 15 years, but it has, several decades of experience in the US. And the population diversity of wealth, there's a different amount volume there in the US as we know in Canada. But I think some of the challenges remain. And I think, I'd like as a Canadian VC firm, all of the financing problems that founders, particularly women, have in Canada be solved by Canadian investors. But practically speaking, our biggest customer is to the south. We're going to need to figure out a way to make sure that investors in the south think of us as well as their neighbors when they're making investments.
Oh, that's wonderful. I mean, I hope our viewers can see the caliber of speakers and panelists that we have. Do you remember your time slot when you're going to be speaking and we can invite people to come and hear you speak?
Pretty sure it's early. They got this East
Yeah.
Coast early 8:30 on
Yeah,
Thursday morning, I think.
April 26th
Yeah.
on 8:30 to 10, and it's over breakfast.
Awesome.
So thank you so much for being a guest, and I invite everyone to come and join us and to watch Cathy in action as she imparts her pearls of wisdom around how to get your share of that female capital. Thank you.
Thank you.